Hello, everyone, and welcome to Start on Campus Preparing for University Academics. We're super excited to have you here with us today. My name is Jenny Danes, and I use she, her pronouns. And we have the wonderful orientation team here to help you out and learn more about preparing for university academics. We are all members of the START team who are helping you prepare this summer to start classes in the fall. If you folks have any questions this summer and don't know who to ask, you can email us at start@uofguelph.ca. I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. The University of Guelph resides on the treaty lands and the territory of the peoples of the Mississaugas of the Credit Nation. It is recognized that the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples have a long-standing and ongoing relationships with this land. This is a gathering place where we work and learn and is home to many past, present, and future First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people. It is important to recognize the lands of Indigenous peoples locally and across Turtle Island and around the world. We acknowledge that the land we have and we are based on, we all have a collective responsibility to this place, peoples, and its rights and presence. So today we are going to talk about how you can prepare for university academics now that you folks have registered or in the process of registering for your classes. We'll go through goal setting, the differences between high school and university, different types of classes, building a schedule, and different resources that you have access to for your classes. Then what we'll do is we'll have some questions open at the side for anything that you folks might be wondering about. You can simply ask questions using the question and answer feature. And we'll also have time for some more live question and answers at the end as well. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Patrick onto the screen to talk to you folks about goal setting.
There I am. Okay. Thank you so much, Jenny. So hello, everybody. My name is Patrick. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm actually going into my 4th year of biomedical sciences here at Guelph. So definitely know a little bit about goal setting here and there. So I'm a member of the orientation team this year, and I definitely can't wait to see everyone during orientation week. So let's start the session off by talking about setting goals. They're a really great way to guide you through your first year of university, especially because of the jump from high school to university. It's good to have some goals in mind, right? So summer is a great time to reflect on where you've been and where you're going. And for myself, at least, I was a high academic achiever in high school. So coming to university, I wanted to ensure that my grades would not fall considerably despite the transition. So therefore, I made it a goal to focus on myself and my academics in first year. And I would want to worry about getting super involved on campus and extracurricular activities and on-campus positions and all that great stuff after I had become more comfortable with my academics. And this goal might not be, necessarily applicable to everybody. Some people may thrive when they're busy, or some people may thrive when they have activities to do outside of class. But for me, on the other hand, I at least appreciated the extra time I had to be able to study, complete assignments, and adjust to the higher workload of university while preserving my mental health and well-being, which is very important. So I believe this did benefit me in the long run, as it kind of gave me a sort of a definitely super involved. So now let's talk about how you can set SMART goals for the summer. I see, oh, there we go. I'm back on the screen. We're good. So SMART goals are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. And in my example, I wanted to succeed specifically in academics, and I measured that by looking at my grades. And I knew it was attainable as I had done it before. And the goal was relevant to my university transition, and I gave myself enough time to prepare and succeed. Having a clear goal in mind and actively working on it helped not only to feel ready for university, but excited too. I see that I might be having some issues with my microphone quality, so I'm going to turn off my camera to see if that improves things a little bit, and we'll see what everyone says. So 1 second. So now I want you to visualize how you want to feel in September. So you could want to feel confident, organized, balanced, prepared. And the important thing is, what can you do now to get there? So keep this question in mind as we go through the material today. I want you to write down ideas for how you want to feel and how you can get there. Perhaps you want to feel confident about your first university assignment. You might benefit from hearing us discuss how to prepare your writing skills today. Or maybe you want to feel organized and balanced with your first university classes. Perhaps learning how to organize your schedule while considering both academics and personal life is helpful for this goal. Or maybe you want to help feel prepared for when you face a challenge or are trying a new thing. Learning about resources could help you with that. University is definitely a big endeavor. And if you've been accepted to the University of Guelph, we feel confident that you have a space here and that you're here for a reason. It takes a lot of hard work and focus to be a successful university student. Setting your focus and goals over the summer to feel ready for September is part of that journey. But if you put in that work now, your transition could be easier than you think.
Thank you, Patrick. We are now going to chat about some of the differences that you folks might experience between high school and university. So, learning in high school and learning in university are definitely not the same. And while a lot of students, and you folks included, may work hard in your studies, first-year courses at university really emphasize new skills and different types of learning. In university, it's really not just about working hard, but it's also about learning how to work differently, thinking more strategically, being more consistent with your habits, and to study more effectively. So you'll notice that there are a few differences up on the screen, but really the workload in each program is different. So a bunch of you folks might be coming to us from the Bachelor of Arts or the Bachelor of Science or different programs. And the workload does vary from course to course and fluctuates throughout the semester as well. In general, when comparing your high school classes, university courses really do run on a shorter semester. So what happens is professors tend to cover a lot of information in a shorter chunk of time. We have our fall semester, which runs from September to December. And then we have our winter semester, which runs from January till April. And as you folks know, this is very different from high school. Many of you have just wrapped up some of your high school exams if you're coming to us straight from high school. So you actually get a longer summer semester as well, but that means more content is covered at a faster pace in university. A lot of university courses have fewer assignments that are worth more. So in high school, you may be used to having multiple short assignments that build up a bigger chunk of your grade, where some courses tend to have a midterm and a final assignment or exam that could be worth a 50-50 split. That being said, again, it does vary from course to course, and your professor will give you all that information about the division of your grades in the first week of classes. A lot of university courses have cumulative midterms and exams. So like I said, sometimes there's a midterm that covers the first half of the content, and then there's a final that covers all or the other half of the content. Where in high school, you might be used to having unit tests. So when every topic changes, you have a test. Whereas in university, you really have to keep track of reviewing that material. A lot of your courses you find might have overlapping assignments. So you have multiple assignments due on the same day or within the same week. And university classes tend to involve less class time and feedback and more independence. So some of you folks may have heard of, oh, in university, I'm just a number. That's not true. Here at the UofG, we really value you. But the biggest difference is you're no longer going to be in a class of 25 students where the professor gets to know who's struggling and really gets to know you as a person. You could be in a class of 300 students, and the professor isn't able to know if you're struggling or need help with some content unless you actually go up and ask them. So the professors do care. There's tons of resources for you to succeed, which you'll hear about later in this presentation. But now it's time for you folks to express that independence and ask for help or support when you need it. Going to class and completing suggested work will really help you stay on top of your courses because it can be easy to fall behind in your classes, and it can be challenging to get caught up. Most classes are 3 hours a week, so either that's 3 hours in one chunk or 2 1.5-hour chunks, and they require about 3 to 6 hours of work at home. It's really good to start and stay on top of your work right from the very beginning of the semester, and avoid letting it pile up near midterms and exams. You may be coming from a very odd high school experience from the past few years being in high school during the pandemic, but you probably are coming into university with a really unique skill set and different from students who've come before you. You've also already developed a lot of great skills. You had to think about time management, and you'll need to practice this in university. You may also feel or experience challenges transitioning from virtual to in-person back to virtual experiences in high school. And so you've gained skills like multitasking and having multiple priorities. Either way, you folks are really well set up to have those foundational skills to help you succeed during your first year. So I'm going to invite Isha on the screen now, because another change for university is the variety of different class styles. For example, you might have an introductory lecture that has 500 students with a lab later in the week, or you might have a smaller seminar with only 20 students. So Isha's going to come on the screen and talk to you folks about different class sizes.
Hi everybody, so my name's Isha and I use she, her pronouns. I'm going into my 4th year of animal biology, and like Patrick and everyone else here, I'm on the O team this year. I really can't wait to see you all for orientation week. So one frequently asked question that I want to talk about is what invariant class styles mean. And like Jenny said, university courses, unlike your high school classes, can have different types of meanings. So there's kind of 4 main points that I want to talk about here. So we have a lecture, which is where a professor teaches a group of people. This is usually the biggest group of people, so think about the 500 student lecture. You can ask questions, but it doesn't really involve that much discussion between students. Another smaller group is a seminar. So a seminar is much smaller than a lecture. It typically involves things like discussions and activities, and many seminars have some sort of either participation mark or evaluation activity or something like that. Another thing that you would have, especially being in science, I had a lot of our labs. So they're usually longer in length, but they're pretty small. It involves some sort of experiment or practice exercise. And like I said, they're pretty common in science courses, but some language and computer courses have labs as well. And the final course type that I want to talk about is the distance education course. So these courses are delivered entirely online via course link. That means you don't have any lectures that you need to go to or labs or seminars. The course link is the university's learning management system. So think of it as the university's version of Google Classroom or D2L like you used in high school. Online courses are really designed with flexibility in mind and are totally asynchronous. So some courses have just a lab and a lecture, some are just a lecture, some are just a seminar, some have all 3, and there's like different combinations of what courses will have. You'll see what kind of components your courses has on your class schedule or on the student planning tool. Another important thing to note is that labs and seminars will show up as different colors compared to your lectures, and that just helps you distinguish the difference. You might not know what your final schedule looks like until September, since some course locations are really not updated till later in the summer.
Hi everyone, my name is Liv. My pronouns are she and her, and I just graduated from the Applied Science program in Family Studies and Human Development. I am also on the orientation team, and I'm really looking forward to helping you make your transition to be part of our wonderful campus community. So today I'm going to chat with you about scheduling, a very fun topic. So now that you've picked your courses or are in the process of doing this, you'll notice that your class schedule looks a little emptier compared to how it looked in high school. And this is because the university learning environment is more independent than high school, which means you spend less time in class. This can be a freeing feeling, but it also means that you have to adjust and make more time for independent learning, coursework, and assignments that take place outside of class. So here are a few tips to help you draft your schedule as a university student. So number one, we have write on a blank schedule when all of your classes are. This can help you start to visualize when you have other time to fit things in. Number two is for every hour of class that you have, you can write out another hour on your schedule for related work. So if you have a chemistry class that is 3 hours during the week, find somewhere in your schedule to dedicate another 3 hours for coursework for that specific class. In your designated study time, you might be doing readings, reviewing your notes, working on assignments, or doing group work. And one important thing to note is that your study time doesn't have to happen all at once. So for myself, I like to spread things out across my week to help me feel like my days are more manageable, but some people like to group their class and study times together. So at the start of classes, you will need to do a little trial and error because some classes will need more or less study time than others. And if at first you feel like you're a little bit behind, know that this is normal when you're getting into the swing of things, and there's no exact science, but there are a few things we can do to tackle these feelings. So if you find that you need to add another hour or two to your coursework time, you can try different things out for this. For number three, it is super important to make sure that all your other commitments are on your schedule because school isn't your only priority. You all have lives and deserve to fill them in with other fun stuff too and make the most of your undergraduate experience. So maybe you have a part-time job, or you want time to connect with your family and friends from home, or maybe you are like me and you have a show that you like to watch every week and you want to find time for team. Also schedule in when they plan on eating meals or exercising to make sure that you're prioritized. You will notice on my schedule that I have lunch blocked out because it's my favorite social meal of the day, and I like to have time to catch up with my friends and keep this consistent through my week. If you are looking for a blank schedule to use, a calendar that comes with Microsoft Teams or Outlook, and pretty if you do prefer to write it down, I would recommend getting a planner that has big spaces or entire pages for each day. We also have wall calendars at the bookstore on campus, which you can pick up when you get here. And these are really great for big and important events, but they're usually too small to write every detail in. So this is where a week one can come in handy. On the screen is an example of my schedule, and this shows all the classes that I took in my first semester of my first year. It's been a couple years since I've been in first year, but still. It also shows my involvement in the Peer Helper program, which is a volunteer opportunity that I did throughout my entire undergrad experience, and this was 10 hours a week. So as you can see, there's time blocked out for everything. And there's also really big chunks of time open, especially on my weekends. I like to leave for myself to see what things I have going on in my workload and what kind of social activities I'd like to be doing. So if this feels like a lot or seems like it's totally new to you, know that this is totally normal and it can feel really challenging at first. But it's important to remember that you don't need to figure everything out all at once. This is your first time likely coming to university, so be kind to yourself and know that stepping into university is all about trying new things and readjusting. So as you make your schedule, think about this as a summer goal, which Patrick talked about earlier. So your life for the next 2 months might be a little more relaxed than it will be in September. So you can take this extra time to plan out how your weeks are going to look at school. And once September rolls around, you will be more familiar with your calendar, where you need to be on campus, and it will be easier for you to readjust your life and your schedule as things come up. If you do want additional help with time management, you can also check out the academic section on the Start Online website. And you can also talk to your friends and your family about how they like to schedule their time. There's lots of folks around to help support us, so all we have to do is reach out and ask.
All right, everyone. My name is Anna, and I use she, her pronouns. I am also on the orientation team or START team, and I'm going to talk to you about how you can use your summer to prepare. So now that you have accepted your offer, you might have already started thinking about different ways that you can get yourself ready for university. So when I was going into my first year, I made sure to use the summer months to get myself ready, and there were two things that I did. So the first thing I did was create a packing list, so things I wanted to bring to my residence, and academic things like binders or what notes do I want to take with me. And the second thing is looking over my old notes. So I spent some time reviewing my notes from high school for the classes I knew I would be taking in my first semester. In many first-year classes, the first week or two cover topics that you may or may not have seen in high school, but it's good to review those things while you are transitioning to university. It'll help you settle in more smoothly. So what can you do to prepare? So on startonline.ca, there are many different resources that you can look through to help you prepare for your first semester, and we will review a few of them now. So there's a section on preparing for university math. If you'll be taking a first-year math course, use your summer to prepare. Your first-year instructors created a math package for you to download and practice with, which includes a list of mathematical concepts that students should know before the fall semester begins. If you find yourself continuing to struggle with any topic in this package, there are many online resources and tools available to help. The library, your instructors, and the START team. Download the math prep package and solutions in the file attachments at the bottom of this page. And we will be getting a link to you in the chat as well. Another topic covered on this section of the Start Online website is preparing for university writing. So if you're taking classes where writing will be a major component, get familiar with the writing support available at the University of Guelph Library. Your development as a writer is an ongoing process. At the library, writing experts are available to help you develop your writing skills and learn expectations for university writing assignments. You can book an individual appointment with us at any stage of your writing process. Whether you just have your first draft, a polished draft, or a list of questions, the writing experts are happy to meet with you. Do you want to get an idea about what writing will be like at the university? The University of Guelph McLaughlin Library has tons of different supports for helping you with university writing. Some of these include the library offering a lot of guides that are helpful for writing. Some examples are writing a university essays, citations and bibliographies, and many more. And you can also book one-on-one writing appointments with library staff who can help you improve your writing. And these have been very helpful for me as I've had to do a lot of writing in university. They also offer workshops about battling procrastination, studying effectively, and managing your time. And we will put another link for you in the chat for the library supports as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amelia. I use she, they pronouns, and I'm going into my 4th year of biological sciences. So now that we've gone over some of the library tools for you to check out over the summer, I want to briefly talk about how the library can support you once you begin the school year. Many incoming students don't realize how big the library is, and we don't mean just in books or virtual articles. We mean resources as well. So the library has a ton of resources, and we've mentioned some of them above. I want to focus more as an upper year student. I would highly recommend supported learning groups, which have a short form of the name of SLG. I have been to many SLGs for a lot of my courses, and the difference in my marks before and after I started attending sessions was amazing. For example, I went to a lot of SLGs for my first year class, Chem 1040, and I got to do amazing one-on-one problem solving with an upper year student who had already taken the class. The SLGs are run by third and fourth year students who did really well in the particular class, and all of the SLG leaders are so welcoming and willing to help. SLGs are just one of the countless examples of the services offered by the library at the University of Guelph. And we will post a link in the chat for more information on the SLGs. Another great resource that I want to talk to you guys about is our IT support / computing and communication services. It's also known as CCS on campus. CCS is your Central University IT department, and they provide the central IT services used by everyone like GriffMail, which can include your email and calendar, central login accounts in the single sign-on service, the university network, so that's like Wi-Fi and wired connections, Microsoft Teams, and free / discounted software. They also provide free IT help for the U of Guelph community. So whether you're studying remotely or on campus, they are happy to help. You can contact them with any of your IT needs, and we will put the information for their contact in the chat.
All right. Hello again, everybody. I'm going to keep my video off just because the Wi-Fi is being a little funky right now, but we will carry on. So, buying textbooks and supplies. A really common question we get is, well, what do I need to buy over the summer? And the short answer, thankfully, is not much. So, to take notes, you can either handwrite or you can type. And if you plan to type your notes, it's good practice to still at least have a notebook with you. This is because some professors don't really like computers in their lecture hall, or sometimes you might forget to charge your laptop, so a backup is good to have. I, along with many of my friends, use a touchscreen laptop or an iPad that comes with a stylus. It kind of merges typing and handwriting into one, and it makes taking notes truly effortless. If you have access to a laptop that has a stylus, I would recommend it. I really like it. And if you have specific questions about computers, because your program is tech related, please email us at start@uofg.ca and we can provide more information about technical requirements for computers and such. Materials such as notebooks, pens, or any kind of stationery of the sort really can be purchased at any time. You can purchase them in the summer, or you can kind of purchase them during a week. There's not really any sort of deadline on that, if that makes sense. However, as for textbooks and other supplies, these will be specific to each course you take at the university. Each professor decides what textbooks are needed for their course, which textbooks aren't needed, and the like. So to determine which textbooks you need to check out the CourseLink website for your course, and that will be live on the first day of class. So you don't have access to the CourseLink page yet, but once the classes start up in September, you'll have access to the CourseLink page. And this is where you can get your course outline, information, and your instructors will post instructions for you and details about what you need or don't need in terms of textbooks, items, computers, and stuff like that. Many students don't purchase books and supplies before the first class unless the instructor specifically requests that they do so. The professor usually does not expect you to have your textbook on the first day of class. Usually the first week is sort of like a grace period where you don't need the textbook yet because the professor understands that you're still in the process of buying one. And if there are books or supplies that you'll need before your first class, you will receive information about this over the summer prior to your first class. And in terms of where you can actually purchase your textbooks, there are many places, including the university bookstore, the university co-op bookstore, which is more for used textbooks, or you can buy them from other students on a website called The Canon, which could be seen as a cheaper alternative because they're used and you're buying them directly from students. Finally, some students also choose to buy a printer, and this is completely optional. Depending on your program, you might need to print very often, or you might need to never print at all. For me specifically in my first year, I did need to print quite often, but other people might not have to print at all. In either instance, the library does have computers and printers available for you that you can use for a small fee. And at least if you use the library printers, you know that you never have to worry about filling up on ink, because I know I messed that up multiple times.
Thank you, Patrick. So that brings us to the end of the formal presentation piece, but we are getting some questions coming in throughout the chat. So if you do have questions, please feel free to pop them into that question and answer box and we will get to them. But we're also going to answer some questions live. So I'd like to invite Liv to come and chat. Liv, the question here is, where can I study on campus?
This is a really great question because the possibilities are truly quite endless. I would say that once students get to campus, they will be able to travel around and find out what works for them. But there are a few questions that I would ask myself if I was looking for a study space. So these would be something like, do I like quiet? Do I like a little or a lot of background noise? Do I like to be inside or outside? And do I want my environment to be fast paced or a little bit slower? But in terms of actual suggestions, I would say the library is a classic. You can be on the group study floor, or you can have a little cubicle to yourself. There's also study rooms available to book as well. There's also the UC Lounge over by the bus loop, which has some couches and some tables. There's a building called Thornborough, which is the engineering building, but it's got a lot of bright light. So if you like open space and bright light and other people, that's a really great place to be too. The Bull Ring is a student-run kind of lounge on campus with lots of couches. It's very cozy and that is very lively. So if you like a little background noise, that would be good for you. And then also we have Johnston Green, which is our biggest, our closest green space, I guess I would say, on campus. So if you like to be outdoors and it's nice outside, I would recommend that location. But yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Liv. So our next question is, what do I do if I miss a class? And Isha, did you want to take that one?
Sure, I can take that one. So it's a question that I think I've gotten, I had first year, and I've been asked a lot already. So in high school, your teacher would probably save the handouts that you get, post things on Google Classroom, D2L, whatever you use. Most professors will post the slides or whatever they're using on CourseLink, but something that I did was I made a lot of my friends in classes and I reached out to them to get the notes. I also highly recommend going to your professor's office hours to ask any questions that you might have after reviewing what you've missed. So these are usually, you'll find them out your professor's office hours, so when they are and where they are on the first day of class, or it'll be somewhere on the CourseLink page for that class. If you miss a lab or a seminar, each course has a specific procedure that you need to follow. So I'd highly recommend taking a look at the course outline at the beginning of the semester to see what you need to do if you were to miss a lab or seminar, or just ask your professor if you can't find this information. I like to be proactive, so I did that. When I took a look at my course outlines, I was like, this is, if I miss something, this is what I have to do, so I wasn't afraid and rushed after I did.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Isha. The next question that we often get is, what do I do if I am sick and have to miss an exam or deadline? So these are kind of two separate questions. So anything that is like an assignment or a scheduled by your professor. So these are assignment dates and deadlines. If you have to miss same with what Isha said, like a lab or a class, you really do want to reach out to your professor as soon as possible to ask for an extension. Some professors will require you to get a doctor's note. Some just will take you at your word. It really depends on your professor's kind of personality. And usually they make this policy pretty clear in your first kind of week of classes about what their expectations are. And it's really up to you to ask for an extension. Definitely, I would say reaching out with as much notice as possible is really important, and letting them know a reason why. If you have to miss an exam, so that's like a formally scheduled exam, you will get your exam locations released on CourseLink. That is a much more formal process because it is not in line with your professor doesn't schedule that date and time. It's actually our scheduling services because there are so many exams happening for all the courses in the exam period. You need to fill out a formal process and a formal form. This usually does require documentation, as sick doctor's notes and things like this. So if you do have to fill out or miss a formally scheduled exam, you can speak to your professor and they will give you the proper channels to do this. Just know that your professor does not have control over policies on formal exams. They only have control over like assignments that they assign or, you know, little quizzes or something they do throughout the week. Patrick is now going to chat with us because we have a question for you, Patrick. What do I do if a question does not get answered during the lecture?
Yeah, so I'll start off. So it's a really interesting question because typically in high school, your question would never get missed because you have a class of around 30 or so students, and there's not really any way that your question would get missed. However, due to the very large class sizes in university, which can sometimes be excess of 500 people in first year, sometimes questions can get missed. However, not to worry, because your professor does want you to succeed. So there are other options to get in touch with your professor and kind of get the answers that you would have hoped to have gotten during your lecture. So there's 4 main methods of going about it, and I'll just briefly outline the 4 of them. So the first and also the easiest one is to simply email your professor. Professors will essentially always be available via email to answer your questions, and most professors will have a response time of a couple of business days, like 1 to 3 business day response time. And your professor's email will be clearly stated in the course outline, but please keep in mind proper email etiquette when emailing your professors, and please make sure to email them from your uofguelph.ca email or they won't respond. So they won't respond to any Gmail or Hotmail or anything like that. They'll respond to UofG emails. The second thing that you can do is you can attend office hours. Like I said before, essentially all professors will have office hours, which is a dedicated time or times during the week, which they block off for students to come and ask them questions. Office hours may be held virtually over a Teams call, or they might be in person at the professor's actual office. Feel free to stop by and ask your question. Office hours are also a great way to build relationships with your professors and get research positions or anything of the sort if you're interested in that, and that's how I landed my 4th year thesis. Lastly, there are class group chats or discussion boards. Most classes will have student-led group chats or Facebook or Discord or Instagram group chats, and you can always shoot your question in there if you think it's something that another student could answer. Or your CourseLink page might have a dedicated discussion board that's moderated by your professor. So there are many, many ways to get in contact with your professor, and just know that they want to answer all your questions, and sometimes they might talk a little bit too long when answering your questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. We have a question here for Anna. Anna, can you explain a little bit about each semester and how long they are?
Yeah, so this is a great question because it is quite different from high school. So in each semester, you have 12 weeks of classes. However, in the winter semester, it's technically 13 weeks because you do have a reading week in February. So this is a week-long break where you can use that time to prepare for your midterms or do whatever you'd like, take some time to have a break, do some self-care. But essentially there's 12 weeks of classes still in the winter semester. So if you want to take classes in the summer also, the summer semester is also 12 weeks. However, for some courses, you might have the option to complete an accelerated version of the course. So it'll be half the length, so 6 weeks long. And that's usually only available in the summer.
And thank you, Anna. We have some questions here for Amelia. Amelia, what does a student do if they want to change their major or add a minor?
Yeah, so if you do want to change your major or minor, I would suggest getting in contact with your program counselor as soon as possible. Speaking to them about it proactively will definitely help you in the long run. A program counselor is a staff member who supports you in planning out your degree. And I will just post the UAIC website where you can find your individual program counselor.
Amazing. And Amelia, what would a student do if they're struggling with their courses? What are some supports that are available for them?
Yeah, so there are a lot of supports in terms of academic guidance at the university. As we mentioned before, there are many programs at UofG designed for academic success. For example, SLGs, the Bounce Back program, which is only available in the wintertime, and many more. The Undergraduate Academic Information Center, which is the UAIC that I mentioned before, also has a lot of helpful information and resources. They offer program counselors, but they also offer a different type of academic advisor, one being a faculty advisor. Program counselors have experience in general degree program requirements, as well as specializations and how to fit them into your degree. Faculty advisors have a more specific lens in the program specialization, so that includes the major, minor, area of concentration, etc., and how they fit in with your degree. Faculty advisors can help you change your major or minor and declare a major if you are undeclared. To review more guidance options, I will post I have already posted, sorry, the academic advising website.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Amelia. Anna, would you like to talk about kind of how much textbooks and supplies cost? We have a question here about that.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So with this big transition to university, you're probably starting to think about how to manage your finances. So keeping textbooks and supply costs in your mind is very important. The answer to this question, though, will depend on your major and the courses you're taking. So in some courses, you might not need a textbook at all, and in others, it might be required. A really good tip is to wait for your professor to tell you if you will need it, because I know sometimes first-year students come with all the textbooks for all the courses and they might not actually need it. So there are other ways you can also save money on textbooks. So the library has course reserves. What this means is some professors will have textbooks available for you to take for a day or two at a time at the library, and you just have to sign that you have taken it at a certain time. And it's a good way to save a little bit on textbooks, but you won't be able to access them all the time. So it's based on your preferences. And there's also used textbook programs at the bookstore and the co-op bookstore, where you can buy physical copies of used textbooks. In terms of supplies, this might vary a lot for your major as well. So in some majors, you might not need any supplies at all, just pen and paper. But in my personal experience, I'm a science major and I needed to buy a few supplies in my first year. And these were just a lab coat and some safety goggles for my chemistry lab. But in other majors, you might need different supplies. So maybe you're in a computer science type program or engineering, and they might require you to get a specific laptop or computer. It really depends on your major, but if you do have any questions about that, you can reach out to your program counselors.
Well, thank you so much, orientation team, for answering a bunch of questions. We still have a few questions coming in through the chat, so I can read through those. a lot of folks are asking questions about kind of majors and minors, or how many credits to take. For that, we suggest that you get in touch with your program counselor. So Amelia earlier on shared the link to the UAIC, or the Undergraduate Academic Information Center. And this is really your first place that you can go with any of your questions about course requirements, majors, minors, and then they'll help connect you with your program counselors, who are able to provide a little bit more specifics on majors and minors within your exact degree program. So if you have any questions about that, I would recommend reaching out to the UAIC first. We got some questions about what are the pros and cons of writing notes by hand versus typing out notes. Like Liv has mentioned, it really depends on your own style and what you're most comfortable with. Research does show that writing out your notes by hand does tend to improve your cognition of the material better, because it is like adding one more step. That being said, I know students really like to take, if you like in-depth notes or you find you type faster, bringing a computer could totally work for you, or a laptop. Or if you like writing out your notes, but you are worried about missing information in class, part of your review and prep time could be reviewing your typed notes and writing them out into shorter bullet point notes. Note taking in university really is a skill. So the library has a lot of workshops on effective note taking. There's also a wonderful event and orientation week called Special Lectures. And this happens the day before classes, where a professor will do a lecture that's usually fun and in their area of interest. And then what they do is they take you through the lecture, and then afterwards they stop and say, okay, here's the lecture I just gave. Here's where the important points are. This is how you can recognize when a professor is making an important point in a lecture. And it could be a really helpful way for you folks to experience lectures and note taking before having to actually go to one of your classes as well. Question here is, what is the 2022-2023 reading week? So it starts on February 20th and ends on February 27th, and that is in 2023, which is crazy to think that I just said we are coming upon 2023. And we also have a question here about, when does orientation start? So orientation week officially starts on the Labor Day weekend. If you're living in residence, you will be assigned a move-in time for then. If you're living off campus, your orientation week starts with a really exciting off-campus kickoff to meet a bunch of different students as well. And then the programming goes all the way until the following weekend. We recognize that classes do start on that Thursday, so we offer some different types of programming so you don't have to miss class to attend a program. And there's lots of different types of activities for you to get involved, ways to meet new people, learn your way around the campus, as well as kind of learn, like I said, with some of those academic events like special lectures, learn kind of some of those expectations that your professors may have of you. We also have another question here, are lectures recorded? That really does depend on the course you're taking, and it is up to the professor. So your professor should make that clear at the beginning of your class if your course is recorded. If you're taking a distance education course that is completely online, obviously those are recorded. But if you're in an in-person lecture, it's really up to the discretion of the professor if it'll be recorded. So that is all the questions that have come in right now. But we want to thank you folks for all being with us here this afternoon, or whatever time it is for you folks, wherever you are. If you have questions and you didn't get an answer to them, you're more than welcome to email us at start@uofguelph.ca, and we can either answer it or connect you with the right person. But thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you next Tuesday at 2 p.m. When we talk about getting involved at university. Bye, everyone.